Matt Bernier for RacingPicks.com with two more selections for Saturday, May the 23rd. One at Gulfstream Park, one out at Santa Anita. Let's start on the East Coast with Gulfstream. Race number 7, 5/8 on the grass. This is an optional claiming event for 3-year-olds. Typically in 5/8 turf dashes, basically anywhere, but especially at Gulfstream, speed is king. If you're not forward, it's going to be very, very difficult for you to make up the ground necessary to get the job done. Having said that, I was very, very taken by the maiden score of the number 10 Legendary Prince, 8-1 on the morning line on Saturday for Herbert Miller. This is a horse that broke the maiden against $25,000 maiden claimers, so certainly let's call it a notch or two below what he's going to have to deal with here on Saturday afternoon. But the way that this horse moved, and also knowing that they tried to get him on the grass for the career debut and it just didn't work. Then they finally did get the turf in that most recent run on April 16th, and he looked fantastic. I know there was speed in front of him to close into, but the point was the way that he moved, rounding the far turn, basically all on his own. Rajiv Mirage hadn't asked him for much run. When Rajiv finally did, angled him out into the clear, the horse came with a big, big kick. Yes, he popped back to his left lead for the final 16th. That's a bit of a nitpicky thing for me. I don't love to see that. But having said that, the speed figures look good. Looks like he stacks up pretty competitively against this group. And again, it's never easy to move up from maiden claimers, or I should just say maidens in general, to taking on winners for the first time. But with a little bit of speed signed on in front of him, if Rajiv can keep him in a similar position to what we saw in that run in the middle of April, where he's sitting maybe 3 lengths off of it down the backside, and he can start to pick up steam rounding that far turn, I think Legendary Prince at 8-1 is a little bit interesting. He's the number 10 in the 7th at Gulfstream on Saturday, and as sort of the caveat and the disclaimer with all of these turf races, I only like the horse if it stays on turf. If for some reason the race comes off the grass and is run on the main track, no play for me here. Now we move out to Santa Anita, and this is going to be the play of the day for May the 23rd on Saturday. Race number 8, graded stakes action, 1.25 miles, starting going down the hill on turf. It's the Grade 2 Charlie Whittingham. A number of, let's say, fan favorites in a race like this. You have the 6-5 morning line favorite in United. Very, very likable horse. Tries hard, runs big races from time to time. You have a horse in here that I've chased time and time again in the number 6 Originaire. Perhaps he finally put it all together, but he had always hinted at ability, and then most recently in that run at the end of February, he destroyed N2X Company, earned a 100 buy, and just decimated the field. You typically don't see that sort of effort. He won by almost 6 lengths. I'm going to go, though, with the old standby. The East Coast shipper going west to try to take all the big money. It's Chad Brown. It's Arad Ortiz Jr. It's the number 7 Rock Emperor. 5-2 on the morning line. If we're being honest, he probably vies for favoritism with United. I could see them both being in that 8-5 range, somewhere around there. Rock Emperor's most recent run came in the Muniz Classic down at the Fairgrounds. That was on March 21st. That day at the Fairgrounds, the temporary rails on the turf were down. I would encourage you to go back and watch the replay of that race. You can see there is an entirely different shade of green for the inside 2 to 3 paths on the turf than there are for, let's say, the next 5 to 6 paths from there out, where everyone had been running for the majority of the meeting. Typically, when that sort of thing happens, the inner portion of the grass is more conducive for horses to running well because it's the fresh turf. It hasn't been touched in quite some time. That's exactly where Factor This was. That's where the runner-up ended up being. Rock Emperor was down there for the first 3/4 of the race, but as you typically see with a closer, he needed to sort of angle out into the clear to try to come with his run. For him to run as well as he did on the more chewed-up section of the turf course at the Fairgrounds, I thought that was very, very encouraging. It's also worth noting there's only been one horse to exit that race thus far. That was a horse called Aquaphobia. I actually liked him quite a bit at Gulfstream a week or so ago. He ran in a stakes race, and he did basically the same thing Rock Emperor did. He was on the better part of the turf. When he angled out into the clear, it looked like he had a full head of steam, but he ended up getting, I think, compromised by the more chewed-up portion of the turf course at the Fairgrounds. He came back at Gulfstream about a week or so ago and earned a 100 buyer, running a good second behind the very talented Halliday for Todd Pletcher. I think Rock Emperor, with a little bit of pace, this move out to 1.25 miles is certainly no issue for him. I think there's just so much to like about this horse. Again, you're not going to get rich on him. He's probably going to be in that 8-5 range when it's all said and done. But he looked really good in the Belmont Derby in his first start in the United States. Yes, he bombed at Saratoga, but then Chad and everyone, they said, you know what, we're going to give him some time, put him away for a while. He came back with that good run at the Fairgrounds. I think he's going to be ready to fire a big shot here on Saturday afternoon. Also, if you're looking for a little stat to kind of encourage even more for a horse like Rock Emperor, Chad Brown, past 2 years, turf graded stakes races at Santa Anita, 4 for 8, 7 of them in the money. with a 475 ROI. 3 of the 4 victories happen to come in Breeders' Cup events. So typically when Chad goes west, there's a reason. I think Rock Emperor fits this field very, very well from a numbers standpoint, from a running style standpoint. I like everything about him. He is the play of the day for me on Saturday, May the 23rd. That's the 7 Rock Emperor in race number 8 at Santa Anita, the grade 2, Charlie Whittingham. Be sure to stay tuned to racingpicks.com throughout the week. All sorts of great selections and analysis. And also, if you missed the first video with 2 other selections for this Saturday, May the 23rd, make sure you take a look at that. A couple of races from a great day at Churchill Downs. Good luck.